The iron collar bites first. You jolt awake in desert sand so hot it sears through the thin linen of a dead man's tunic, the taste of rust and dried blood caking your tongue. Sunbeams hammer your skull like legionnaire mallets, and somewhere above, carrion crows squabble over a palm frond scaffold that still drips with yesterday's entrails. There's not a cloud in the Persian sky, only heat ripples dancing, mocking, while your own pulse throbs louder than the distant war drums that hurled you into this hell. You try to twist, to wrench free, and agony flares down your spine. The collar is chained to 3 other prisoners wedged shoulder to shoulder beside you. One whimpers in Greek, another in some guttural steppe tongue, but all 4 of you share the same unblinking fear, because no one survives Shapur's slave pits unless the gods themselves intercede. And just last night, beneath a veil of fever dream, you swore Mars spoke to you. Hold fast, Lucius. Dawn will bring deliverance. Yet dawn only brought this blistering crucible and the stink of singed hair. A trumpet blasts. Shackles clatter. You're herded to your feet by riders in scaled lamellar, their curved swords flashing bits of sunlight that stab your retinas. A swift kick to the kidneys folds the Greek clean in half, and the guards laugh, a chilling, guttural rasp that echoes across the wadi. Roman pigs, one growls in barely intelligible Latin. Your emperor kneels before King of Kings. Soon you kneel deeper. Valerian, Imperator Caesar Publius Licinius Valerianus, captured like a common bandit at Edessa. You had marched west of the Cabra River with coerce for Gallica, certain the eagle standards, and the gods behind them, were unbreakable. Then came plague, dust storms, shattered supply lines, and finally the Parthian charge that smashed the Tigris ford at dusk. You remember the river turning black with corpses, the frantic cries of centurions, and the way a Persian arrow sewed your comrade Naso to his own shield. In the panic you clung to a single thought. The gods test us, but they will save their faithful. Now Naso rots somewhere upstream, and you stand naked except for chains, the stink of goat dung and pitch filling your nostrils. Was Mars merely a fevered hallucination? Perhaps. Yet the old tales whisper that true faith demands utter desperation first. An overseer lifts a clay amphora and tricks each of you with a single teardrop of water, just enough to smell relief but not taste it. He pauses at you. Roman, still thirsty? His grin is all broken teeth and saffron-stained gums. You nod. He raises the amphora and pours the rest out onto the sand. It vanishes in an instant, a hiss of steam, leaving only a darker patch on the earth. The crows shriek as if laughing at the cruelty. Hot wind carries scents of cumin, sweat, and distant cedar fires from Shapur. Beyond the dunes, that jewel city gleams. Towers of glazed blue brick, ziggurats etched with winged bulls, opulence paid for in the lives of 10,000 captives. You're told today's march ends in those walls where skilled prisoners are set to mack, eat bricks or bleed for sport. Which fate awaits you? The guards offer no hint. They simply yank the iron chains, forcing the column forward. Ankles tear open on jagged gravel. One misstep risks dragging everyone down. Mid-stride, thunder rumbles, impossible on such a clear day. But it's not thunder. It's the roar of the Tishtria furnace ahead, where deserters are burned alive in honor of the fire god Adder. The Greek at your side begins to sob, repeating Kyrie eleison. The steppe captive mutters a Sarmatian prayer. You stare at the cloudless sky, daring Mars, or any deity to answer. The overseer raises his whip. Roman, he sneers again. Do you still believe your war god will ride the lightning for you? You swallow dust. Voice hoarse you whisper. He already marches at my shoulder. It's a lie meant to stiffen your spine, but even lies can taste like courage for a heartbeat. Ahead, the prison caravan turns a blind corner in the ravine, and the guards suddenly halt. Something is wrong. The youngest rider dismounts, creeping forward with spear leveled. A thin column of smoke drifts around the bend, darker than campfire ash. Your pulse kicks. Maybe, just maybe, the gods have answered with rebel ambush? The Greek's eyes widen, the Sarmatian tightens fists. The overseer's whip snaps, urging everyone backward, but the ravine is too narrow. Someone screams. Then comes the first arrow, silent and swift, plunging through a Persian helm. Your chains rattle as prisoners crouch low. Another arrow whistles past your ear. If this is salvation, it arrives jagged and indiscriminate. Fear mingles with hope until they are indistinguishable. A blood-slick guard crashes at your feet, keys jangling on his belt. You stare at the corpse, thinking, Mars, this is your sign. Take the keys, seize destiny. But the overseer notices too. He lunges for the fallen man, even as arrows rain. Dust obscures everything, choking, blinding. Heart hammering, you must decide, reach for freedom amid chaos, or freeze and pray. A hand, Greek or Sarmatian, you cannot tell, clamps onto your wrist. Now, he hisses. You grasp the keyring, fingers trembling. And that's when the horn of reinforcements blares from behind, sealing the ravine like an iron gate. The horn's brazen cry ricochets off the red clay walls, flooding the ravine with dread. In its wake gallop 30 fresh cataphracts, iron men atop iron beasts, lances leveled like a forest of merciless intent. Their horse armor clinks in a murderous rhythm, each stride punching dust clouds that swirl around you like smoke from an unseen pyre. The ambushers, ragged hill tribes by the look of them, loose a ragged volley, but bronze-scaled breastplates drink the arrows with metallic crunches. Hope, fragile as desert glass, fractures in an instant. The overseer shouts orders in Middle Persian. Chain-bound prisoners become human barricades. A short spear lands beside your foot, quivering in sand the color of dried liver. Instinct screams to dive, but the iron yoke binds you to 3 men who flail in different directions, turning your body into a rag doll between them. Another shaft whistles overhead. A distant thump, someone's skull meeting stone, splashes grit against your cheek. Then the cataphracts hit. Every hoofbeat is a battering ram. They trample the first line of hill men, snapping ribs like dry twigs. You glimpse a rebel's face as he's hurled skyward, eyes wide, mouth frozen mid-curse, before disappearing beneath hooves. Blood arcs, painting equine armor a deeper shadow. You stagger as the chain jerks, the Greek slips, dragging the rest of you down. Your knees slam rock, and a spike of pain blurs vision. Somewhere to your left the Sarmatian roars, more beast than man, and lunges for a fallen guard's axe. But the collar yanks him back, steel digging raw flesh. He bellows in fury and frustration, muscles bulging against iron that will not yield. A cavalryman wheels toward the prisoners, eyes narrowed behind a nasal helm. He raises a mace big enough to pulp melons. Time dilates. You're close enough to see your reflection warp along the mace's polished head, sun blink bright, like a tiny funeral pyre trapped in metal. You twist, an inch, no more, but that inch saves your skull. The blow glances, clipping your shoulder instead. Tendons scream, bones threaten to splinter, white flashes explode behind your eyes. The Greek is not so lucky. The mace caves his temple with a sickening crack, spraying warm flecks across your face. He slumps, dead weight on the collar, tongue protruding like a child's crude joke of death. Something inside you tears, not flesh this time, but certainty. The gods' promised rescue curdles into cosmic mockery. Rage ignites where faith once smoldered. The Sarmatian feels it too. With a guttural howl, he twists the key still clutched in your blood-slick fist. Tumblers click, the collar springs wide. You gasp, a first breath of ownership over your neck. He rips his own collar free, then kicks the Greek's corpse aside, snapping the chain between you. For a heartbeat you are unshackled, but not yet safe. A rebel arrow finally finds a seam in cataphract armor. The struck rider tumbles, screaming, pinned beneath his thrashing mount. Dust erupts. The overseer curses and lashes prisoners indiscriminately, driving them forward to form a shield wall of despair. But chaos births opportunity. You and the Sarmatian exchange a look, wordless pact forged in terror's furnace. He charges toward the fallen cataphract. You sprint in his wake, shoulder half numb, collar still dangling like a grotesque necklace. The rider struggles to draw breath under his horse, plates of iron scale jigsaw around a crushed ribcage. You wrench free his dagger, a broad Persian card still sheathed at his belt. Its ivory grip feels alive, thirsty. Cut the girth. The Sarmatian's accent mangles Latin, but the meaning is clear. You slice leather straps, the armored horse bucks free, leaving its former master wheezing crimson bubbles. Before the beast can bolt, the Sarmatian vaults into the saddle with barbaric grace. He grips a fallen lance, then reaches back, offering you a blood-slick hand. A moment's hesitation. Mounting means abandoning dozens still chained, condemning them to certain death or worse. But lingering means sharing that fate. Your muscles answer before your conscience. You swing up behind him. 3 strides and the stallion surges, lungs flaring, rhythmic thunder beneath. Arrows hiss, stones skitter. You cling to the Sarmatian's waist, feeling every sinew flex as he guides the stallion along the ravine wall, hugging its curve where hoof holds are perilously narrow. Below, guards hack down rebels, prisoners wail, the overseer's whip cracks futile curses at the sky. You glimpse the keyring still clenched in your fist, 5 keys, one for each collar size used in Shapur's pits. Salvation jingles with every jolt. A Cataphracts spots your escape and spurs after. The chase rattles through your spine, hoofbeats slamming rock like war drums. The Sarmatian risks a glance. "Hold," he barks. You pivot, heart pounding, and hurl the dagger. It spins once, twice, then slams hilt deep into the pursuer's horse. The beast screams, stumbles. Rider catapults into a sandstone boulder with a crunch that makes bow rise in your throat. But victory tastes fleeting. The ravine narrows ahead into a slit barely wide enough for one mount. The stallion skids, flinging gravel precipice steep on both sides. To your right yawns a drop where shadow hides whatever bones await. The Sarmatian reins hard, the animal's muscles bunch, ready to leap chasm or veer back into slaughter. Either path courts death. Your gaze snags on a jagged switchback trail carved up the cliff, goat path, maybe smugglers, ascending to the plateau. "There," you shout over wind. He jerks the reins, the stallion scrambles, hooves striking sparks. Rock shears under iron shoes. One slip and you'll tumble like dice cast by an indifferent fate. Behind, the overseer rallies a trio of archers. Feathered death zips past your ear, slicing a strand of sweat-soaked hair. Another strikes the rump of your mount. The horse rears, almost unseating you. The Sarmatian steadies the animal with iron-jawed mastery and propels it upward, each stride a gamble. Mid-climb, a shaft bites your calf. Heat blossoms into liquid fire. You clench teeth, won't scream, won't slow. Each heartbeat is a hammer forging new resolve from agony. Above, the plateau glows under noon sun, promising panoramic safety, or at least a fresh battlefield with room to breathe. You crest the edge. Wind slaps your face, cool compared to furnace below. For the first time in days, horizon stretches without walls or whips. But freedom unveils new peril, an endless sea of dun-colored hills, broken only by a distant black ribbon, the royal road to Ganshapur, where dust plumes mark more patrols. The Sarmatian scans the expanse, chest heaving. "We ride north," he decides, pointing toward a cluster of bone-white acacia trees. "Find water, mend wounds." His certainty is a crude map drawn in adrenaline, yet you nod. Anything but return to chains. Your calf throbs, blood seeps, sticky warmth down grieveless leg. You tear a strip from the dead man's tunic still clinging to your torso, fashioning a tourniquet. Each tug sparks black spots at edge of sight, but you tighten anyway. Survival demands pain's tithe. Thunder, or what your nerves mislabel as thunder, rumbles again. You glance back. In the ravine mouth, the overseer appears atop a fresh mount, face a mask of sulphurous rage. He lifts a horn to lips and blows 3 sharp notes. Signal for pursuit. "Ride!" You bark, echoing centurions long slain. The Sarmatian spurs, the stallion lunges into scrubland, hooves shredding brittle sage. Dust billows behind, betraying your path. Sun blazes directly overhead, cooking armor and flesh alike. Thirst claws at throat, water skins non-existent. Minutes blur. The world reduces to hoofbeats, searing wind, and the relentless ache in your shoulder and calf. The Sarmatian's breathing grows ragged, but he does not falter. A small respect kindles between you, 2 strangers fused by shared defiance. At last the acacias loom, branches twisted like arthritic fingers pointing skyward. Beneath their scant shade lies an old way shrine, a cracked stone altar dedicated to Anahita, goddess of waters. Half crumbled, half venerated still by caravans, its basin, miracle of miracles, holds a palm-sized pool of rain trapped from some merciful storm. Clear as glass. You dismount, legs jelly. The Sarmatian cups water in calloused palms, offers first sip to you. It tastes of sky and salvation. You nearly weep, though tears would waste moisture. He drinks next, then splashes the stallion's foaming neck. Overhead, vultures circle, ominous punctuation on fragile reprieve. In distance, tiny silhouettes of riders fan across plateau like ants scenting sugar. They have your trail, and daylight yet to run you down. You study the shrine's weather-worn reliefs, warriors kneeling to a winged figure pouring rivers from amphory. A bitter laugh rumbles inside. Gods indeed offer water, but never refuge. If destiny is to be written, you must carve letters yourself. The Sarmatian checks the stallion's flank. "Name," he asks, jerking his chin toward you. "Lucius Phineas," you answer, voice rough as gravel. "I am Sarva." He taps his chest with thumb before returning to saddle. Sarva owes Roman life. His gaze hardens toward the horizon. "Now we take Parthian heads, yes?" You flex aching shoulder, recalling slain comrades, shattered pride, stolen freedom. Anger, coiled and venomous, unfurls. Yes, you whisper. But first supplies allies a plan. You lift the keyring, metal glinting like shards of afternoon sun. And perhaps, you add, we free others still in chains. Sarva grins, wolfish. Then we bleed world dry until gods notice. Behind, pursuit horn blares again closer. Heat waves shimmer over approaching dust plume. You sling the fallen rider's quiver across your back, knock a single arrow, and meet Sarva's gaze. 2 fugitives, 1 horse, a desert full of enemies, and the soft clinking promise of 5 iron keys. Somewhere deep inside, a voice, Mars or madness, whispers, salvation was never the god's gift to grant. It is yours to seize. Hoofbeats drum closer. Wind snarls through the acacias like an angry harp, scattering thorny pods across the baked earth. By the time you and Sarva swing back into the saddle, the horizon has begun to shimmer gold-orange. Late afternoon, the hour when heat surrenders to long shadows but scent travels far. 1 whiff of sweat or horsehide could betray you, so Sarva guides the stallion down a dry wash choked with oleander and tamarisk. The air here is cooler, perfumed faintly with pink blossoms, yet every snap of twig sounds like a trumpet blast in your skull. What now? You whisper. Nightfall, Sarva replies, patting the horse's foam-dark mane. We hunt supplies at Nisaya Relay Post, 2 leagues north. Few guards. Many carts. Nisaya. You've marched past the place before, a caravanserai wedged between chalk cliffs, famous for sesame cakes and brutal discipline. If you can slip in unseen, you might steal grain, waterskins, perhaps even new mounts. If you're caught, well, rumor says Shapur nails thieves to the gate alive, using horseshoes for tacks. Your calf throbs with every heartbeat. Infection lurks in desert wounds the way scorpions lurk in sandals. Still you nod. Nisaya or bust. As the sun tilts west, the plateau cools enough for breath to show, tiny ghosts fluttering from your nostrils. Behind, the dust plume of pursuers dwindles. Either they lost the trail in the scrub, or they set an ambush on the road ahead. You refuse to guess which. Twilight paints the land bruise-purple by the time the white walls of Nisaya appear, half blurring into dusk. Lanterns flicker along battlements, their flames quivering like trapped fireflies. The smell of cumin stew wafts over the ramparts, mingling with the tang of camel dung. Hunger sinks claws into your belly. Sarva dismounts behind a cluster of saltbush and hands you the reins. I go first. Scout. No, your voice surprises even you, Flinthard. We go together. If one is captured, both die anyway. He studies your face, then offers a curt nod. The wolf acknowledges another wolf. You circle wide, keeping low. A crumbling irrigation ditch, long since surrendered to sand, leads directly beneath the outer wall. Someone once mortared its mouth with limestone. Time has gouged a gap wide enough for 2 men if they crawl flat. Perfect, except for the scorpion whose tail flicks lazily at the entrance. You skewer it with an arrow, crunch underfoot, and taste bitter crunch of victory. Inside, the ditch reeks of stagnant water and goat rot. You wedge the stallion farther back, whispering a prayer, to Mars, to Anahita, to whichever deity is least offended, to keep the beast quiet. Then you and Sarva inch forward on elbows, keys jangling softly like wind chimes of doom. Voices ahead. You freeze. 2 Persian sentries lounge beside a brazier, gambling with knucklebones, their helmets discarded for comfort. The brazier's embers cast demon-red highlights on their beards. One curses when the other rolls a bad throw. They argue over steaks, dates versus raisins, while a skin of wine passes between them. Sarva bares teeth, miming a throat slash. You shake your head. Killing them might raise alarm too soon. Instead, you knock an arrow, aiming for the wineskin. Twang. The shaft punctures leather. Wine gushes, dousing coals in a hiss of steam. Darkness swallows the corridor. In the confusion you and Sarva sprint past, soft-souled as panthers. First storeroom, barred. Second, unlatched. You ease the door, greeted by musk of barley and tar. Crates tower ceiling high, stamped with royal seal. Tribute for gone Shapur. You pry one open. Inside, iron manacles fresh forged. A chill slides down your spine. These were meant for tomorrow's captives. You run a thumb over cold metal, vow never to wear such shackles again. Third crate delivers treasure, leather waterskins, olives packed in brine, onions still crusted with soil. You devour an onion raw, sweet as honey after days of dust. Sarva stuffs skins into a burlap sack, slings it across his back. He snags 2 curved sabers from a weapon rack, tosses you one. The balance is strange after the straight Roman gladius, but the blade sings when you whirl it. Footsteps clatter outside. You melt behind sacks of millet as 3 teenage grooms enter, gossiping about a court eunuch rumored to have been flayed for treason. Their voices wobble with fearful excitement. Sarva's knuckles whiten on his hilt. Your hand hovers over his, restraining. The grooms leave, your pulse eases. Prison pens, Sarva whispers, gesturing deeper into the compound. Your heart stutters. To flee is one thing, to liberate others is open war. But the keys in your palm feel heavier with each heartbeat. You picture the Greek's skull caving, the overseer's whip splitting backs, Lucius Valerian in chains. We open as many as we can, you decide, then vanish into night. Corridor bends, torches hiss. Sweat trickles down your spine like ice despite the heat. At the pen gate, a jailer snores in a wicker chair. Mouth agape, he dreams of something pleasant. His hand twitches as if stroking a lover's hair. You ease closer, blade poised. A swift pommel strike to the temple, and he slumps deeper, dreamless now. Rows of cells appear, each packed with human silhouettes. Some rise, wary, others remain curled in despair. A Gaul with half-severed ear peers through bars. Qu'est-ce vous? He rasps. Friends, you answer in lilted Latin, raising the keys. Stay silent. Locks click open like applause. One cell houses women destined for concubine markets, eyes sunken yet fierce. Another holds Parthian conscripts who deserted. They spit on the empire's sigil as they stumble out. Dozens more follow, Syrians, Cappadocians, even a boy no older than 12 who still clutches a wooden toy chariot. Whispers swell. Who are these men? Is this revolt? Will we truly walk free? You silence them with a cutthroat gesture. Arm yourselves quietly. Follow only sign of wolf. You tap Sarva's tattooed shoulder, a snarling gray emblem inked there. No sound or we all die. Weapon racks near the training yard provide spears, short bows, rusty breastplates. Prisoners strip corpses of 2 guards who blunder in half awake. The concubines arm with daggers meant for fruit cutting. Steel is steel. The boy grabs a sling. Moonlight floods the courtyard, silvering everything. Your band of 30-odd shadows huddles near the irrigation ditch exit. Just as you signal advance, a clarion shriek splits the night. A watchtower sentry has spotted the missing jailer. Alarm bells clang, deep and accusing. Chaos blooms. Archers line ramparts. Arrows hiss like angry bees. Your fugitives scatter into practiced formations. Slaves learn fast under whip. You duck behind a stone trough, yank Sarva down beside you. Plan B, you shout over din. He flashes feral grin. Make noise, make fire, make ghosts. He upends a tar jug, dousing hay bales stacked near camel pens. You spark flint, flames roar upward, incandescent and hungry. Smoke swirls, thick as curtain. Under that black veil, you charge the main gate with half the prisoners. Sarva and the others head for stables, intent on mounts. An arrow grazes your forearm, hot kiss of death. You ram the gate's crossbar with stolen battering ram, really a cedar beam waiting for repairs. Wood splinters. Second heave, hinges shriek. On the third, the gate bursts outward like a beast exhaling. Cool desert night rushes in. But blocking the road stand 5 cataphracts, iron silhouettes backlit by fire. Their commander lowers lance tip, voice booming. Yield worms or feed the jackals. You raise your new saber, heart pounding like legion drums at Capua. Around you, freed men and women tighten their ragtag grip on weapons. Sparks rain from the burning bales behind, painting your faces with war paint of glowing embers. You breathe smoke, dust, and adrenaline. There is no cavalry coming, no legion banner, no divine thunderbolt. Only your racing pulse and a question hammering your skull. If gods won't save you, will you dare to save yourselves? You step forward, blade catching torchlight, and answer that question with a single word that is half roar, half prayer. Charge! Your shout rips through the smoke like flint on steel, and the ragtag legion beside you answers with a raw, defiant roar. Feet pound, blades glint, and the scorched air crackles with the weird electricity that sparks when ordinary people decide, without permission, that they will not die meekly. First contact is thunderous. Your saber rings against a cataphract's iron greave, bone-deep vibrations jolting your wounded shoulder. The giant above you barely flinches. His armor turns your slash into sparks. He thrusts his lance. You pivot left, feel hot wind kiss your cheek where the point should have been, then drive your blade up beneath the layered belly plates. Metal splits with an ugly shriek. A gout of red sprays your face, salty and scalding. The rider's breath leaves him in a bubbling grunt. He topples in slow motion, cuirass clanging like a dropped cauldron. A concubine, Sabra, you learned her name in the pen, springs past, harvest knife reversed in her fist. She hamstrings the fallen warrior before he can rise, eyes flaring with a fury that makes you shiver. Somewhere behind, the boy with the sling whips a stone that cracks against a helm, staggering a second cataphract just long enough for Sarva to vault from the stable roof and scissor kick the rider down. The night erupts into overlapping vignettes of brutal courage. A skeletal Syrian thrusts a pitchfork clean through chainmail. Two deserters wrestle a horse's head sideways, so its armored bulk crushes its own master. An elderly scholar clubs a guard with a scroll case, parchment exploding like doves. You catch fragments of war cries in half a dozen tongues, all boiling into one, universal howl, never again. Yet iron discipline and heavier plate tilt the scales. For every armored foe that falls, two freed prisoners bleed out on the sand. Moonlight glints on lance points that skewer into the smoky melee. Screams braid with the roar of the burning hay, and a smell like roasted pork wafts sickeningly across the yard. A horn sounds from the far tower, reinforcements incoming. You glimpse shapes assembling on the rampart, archers, silhouettes multiplied by flickering firelight until they look like an army of giant spiders straining their bows. We will be pincushions in minutes, you think, unless you open an exit wider than the gate. Your gaze snags on a stacked pyramid of pitch barrels beside the supply shed. A single ember would turn them into a miniature volcano, exactly the havoc you need. But they sit 20 paces beyond the kill zone, in clear view of the ramparts. Sarva catches your glance and nods. He sees it too. Wordlessly you trade places. He tangles with two lancers, buying you a sliver of time. Heart hammering, you sprint low, breath rasping like a saw through your lungs. Arrows hiss past, a deadly rain you feel more than see. One slices your forearm. Hot blood rolls down to your palm, slicking the saber hilt. You do not slow. At the barrels, you snatch a torch from a toppled brazier. Flame gutters in the wind, casting mad shadows. Your hand trembles, not from fear, but from the colossal throb in your calf where the arrow wound has reopened. You jam the torch into the tar-soaked lid and kick the stack, toppling the uppermost barrel toward the gate. It lands with a hollow boom and begins to leak a dark, glistening river. A Persian officer spots you. He bellows, charging, cloak snapping like a banner. You spin, torch in one hand, saber in the other. He swings a curved axe. Wood handle whistles past your ear. The force of his miss whooshes cool air over sweat-drenched skin. Before he can recover, you slap the torch against his beard. Flames blossom up his oiled hair, devouring face and screams alike. He staggers backward, a living brazier, and crashes into the leaking pitch. Fwum! The trail ignites, a serpent of blue-white fire racing across the yard toward the barrels still stacked too high. You dive behind a cartload of flax just as the entire pile detonates. Light engulfs everything, searing, weightless, absolute. The shockwave lifts you, hurls you through the air, slams you against the cart. Your ears ring, the world shrinks to a blurred pulse. But when the haze clears, you see the miracle. The fortress gate, bulk of oak and bronze, lies blasted off its hinges, a jagged maw opening onto the empty royal road beyond. Out, you croak, voice raw. Everyone run. The order spreads like prairie fire. Survivors stream for the breach. Limping Gauls, weeping concubines half carrying one another, Sarva hauling the wounded scholar across his shoulders. A cavalry horse, spooked beyond reason, thunders past riderless, reins flapping. An archer on the rampart looses a final arrow that buries in the sand inches from the boy's heel. You scoop up the boy, sling him onto the horse's back, then vault up behind him in one practiced move, training drilled by legion vault exercises you once cursed. Hold the mane, lad, you shout. He does, knuckles white. Behind, the compound is an inferno, towers guttering, banners curling to ash, prisoners swarming out like sparks on the night breeze. Ahead stretches freedom, open road under a harvest moon as fat as a coin stolen from a god's purse. But freedom is pursuit waiting to happen. You rein the horse alongside Sarva, who leads a straggling column toward the gravel flats northwest. Caves in the Jabal Bazet foothills, he pants. Shelter, water, darkness. You nod, relay the goal to those in earshot. The column veers off-road, crunching over scrub, each step farther from Shapur's reach, yet deeper into uncharted peril. Hours pass in a blur of hooves and ragged breaths. The sky flares indigo, then black velvet studded with cold silver. Insects drone, somewhere a jackal yips. Sweat cools to ice on your spine, and exhaustion sinks talons into every muscle. But the refugees keep moving, drawn by the twin magnets of fear and fragile hope. Just before dawn, the foothills rear up, broken fangs of limestone, riddled with dark mouths. Sarva signals halt. You dismount, legs trembling. The boy dismounts too, then promptly vomits, nerves finally cashing their debt. You squeeze his shoulder. You did well. Inside the nearest cavern, cool air smells faintly of bat guano and mineral damp. The group collapses in clusters, clutching stolen blankets, crusts of bread each other. Some pray, some weep, some simply stare as if still chained by disbelief. You sink against a wall, pulse thrumming behind your eyes. Firelight from a single guttering torch dances across faces hollowed by hunger, yet brightened by something new, agency. Sarva limps over, binds your calf with a strip of his own tunic. We made their bones into torches, he mutters in Sarmatian, part boast, part benediction. You laugh, shaky, and lit the night so the gods couldn't pretend we were invisible. His eyes soften. Romans always speak of gods. Maybe time you become one. Sleep weighs down your lids, but before surrendering you survey the cave. 33 souls who owe you and Sarva their chance. 33 sparks that could ignite rebellion across half Persia, if only fanned correctly. Outside, dawn's first light fingers the horizon, sure to expose boot prints and blood trails. The Empire's hounds will come, armed with fresh orders and hotter rage. You clutch the 5 keys, still hooked on your belt, painted now with soot and dried gore, and whisper a promise to them. We're not done unlocking destinies. Somewhere in dreams' borderlands, Mars's voice rumbles again. Not a promise of rescue, but a challenge. Forge your own thunder. You accept. A pale shard of sunrise slices across the cave mouth, igniting motes of dust that dance like tiny spirits ascending from the sleeping huddle. You jolt awake to the stink of dried blood and damp limestone, calf throbbing beneath Sarva's crude dressing. Outside, the desert exhales a chill that prickles sweat-slick skin. Above the cliffs, vultures pinwheel, scouting for fresh carrion. They circle the exact ravine you fled, ominous punctuation that the hunt has resumed. You ease to your feet, every joint creaking like rusted hinges, and step into the dawn. The zone between shadow and light feels thin as parchment, as if one careless breath could tear it and reveal you. Far below, the royal road already hums. A supply caravan lumbers north, oxen groaning under crates. More urgent, you spot a dust plume to the southwest. Cavalry scouts sweeping wide arcs, their course unmistakably bent toward the foothills. The Empire's fangs are out. When you duck back inside, the cave is a shivering hive of nervous energy. Sabra wraps bandages around a deserter's arrow-riddled arm. The boy polishes sling stones with single-minded intensity. Sarva gnaws dried olives, eyes narrow in thought. 33 sets of hopes now cling to the fragile scaffolding of your plan, though you still haven't built one worthy of that weight. You raise your voice, tamping down the echo. Scouts approach. By midday they'll climb these hills. A hush spreads like oil. Faces tight with fear turn toward you, the accidental centurion of this broken legion. You feel the question behind their eyes. Did we escape only to die on a higher rock? Sarva rises, brushing olive pits from palms. We move again. East slope hides wadis thick with tamarisk. Good ambush ground, good cover. Cover for what? A Gaul demands, rubbing the stump where 2 fingers used to be. We're bleeding, starved, half-armed. But not broken, you cut in voice iron. You recall the legion's rallying cadence, adapt it. Better to die on our feet than kneel in their chains again. Is that not why you fled fire for this cave? A rumble of assent answers, shaky but growing. You press advantage. We cannot outrun Shapur's horse forever, but we can bleed them every time they reach for us. Harass the scouts, raid their caravans, free more captives, turn their own roads into graves. Every strike buys hours, recruits allies, sows terror. You let the words settle like coals. Somewhere a drip echoes, water tick-ticking into a calcite bowl. Finally, Sabra ties her last knot, wipes blood on her skirt, and steps forward. I say fight. I'd rather scorch this world than return to a silk bed where men think they own me. The scholar, poor wisp of a man with scroll case bruises on knuckles, nods too. Soon most heads bob, some with conviction, some resigned. Strategy births itself from desperation. You break the group into triads, sling and bow pairs for high ground, spear teams to defend the wounded, a rapid strike unit. yourself, Sarva, Sabra, and the boy as slinger, to raid the caravan you sighted. Supplies first, then sabotage. Each assignment snaps into place like shield locks. Even fear can mimic discipline. Within an hour, footprints vanish beneath swept sand, ashes from last night's tiny cookfire are scattered, and the cave stands guard over nothing but echoes. Your strike team descends goat paths toward the road, the sun climbing like a white anvil overhead. Heat shimmers distort distance, a mirage kingdom where hope and doom blur. Halfway down the ravine, a scent floats up, sweet, cloying wrong. You pause, taste air. Myrrh, Sabra whispers, nostrils flaring. Sarva grimaces. Merchants burn it to mask the rot of spoiled meat. Good, cover for your scent, but also a lure for flies. You motion forward. At the canyon floor, bedrock gives way to a strip of cracked clay dotted with purple thistles. You crouch behind a boulder, studying the caravan inching closer. 6 ox carts, 2 camel litters draped in green silk, and a dozen guards in quilted armor. But a prize glitters atop the lead cart, stacked bronze helmets and spearheads, freshly forged. Arms for a nearby garrison. You count breaths. 5-10. The boy winds his sling, Sarva loosens his saber. Sunlight bounces off bronze like a beacon, making your teeth ache with greed. Tools to transform refugees into soldiers. You rise, loose a warning whistle. The boy's first stone whistles harder, crack, caving a guard's cheek. Chaos ripples. Sabra launches forward, flinging daggers, each flash of steel a promise kept. Sarva barrels in, a whirlwind of iron and horsehide. You reach the oxen, slash reins, beasts low and scatter, carts jackknifing. Sand erupts as wheels dig. Guards regroup quick, professionals, not slavers, and one lunges at you with a short spear. You parry upward, catch his wrist with free hand, twist until bone pops, drive your pommel into his throat. He drops soundlessly. But the camel litters screech to a halt, unveiling new peril. A priest of Ahura Mazda clad in linen-soaked crimson, blood ritual fresh, and beside him, a royal courier. Both carry no weapons, yet their worth and information could dwarf these weapons. You signal Sabra, who drags the courier from his litter at knife point, while Sarva disarms the priest, ripping a flame-embroidered sash from his neck. The surviving guards break, sprinting south, no time to chase. Now victory heaves in your chest. Crates of helms, spearheads, shields, plus 2 prisoners valuable as gold. Yet triumph frays the moment you spot a dust halo on the horizon, fast, low, unmistakable. Scouts, maybe 20, driving lathered horses. They saw the smoke of overturned cook fires or the fleeing guards. They'll be here in minutes. Load what we can, you bark. Sarva and the boy shove helmets into sacks. Sabra prods the courier with blade, forcing him to heft spearheads. You cut ox tether, hitch a camel to a half-intact cart. Minutes blur under hammering pulse. By the time hooves drum closer, you've pushed the laden cart into an arroyo, camouflaged by reeds. The scouts crest a ridge, silhouettes against glare, bows raised. You raise the priest's crimson sash like a captured banner. Confusion ripples among them, long enough. Sabra hurls a torch into spilled grain, and fire leaps toward the remaining carts, smoke geysering. The ploy works. Scouts rain back, some circling the blaze, others loosing hasty arrows that fall short. Under cover of smoke, you lead camel and cart into the reed bed, water sloshing ankle deep, reed swallowing sound. Your heart punches ribs, but the hazy silhouettes recede, drawn to the larger inferno. By late afternoon, you reconvene at a dry wash nearer the foothills. Wounded are minimal. 1 gash on the boy's arm, Sarva's new bruise blossoming on cheek, but you've hauled enough arms to outfit 24 rebels and food for a week. The courier kneels, wrists bound, glaring hate. The priest mutters prayers, eyes like cracked obsidian. You share the spoils. Helmets gleam on shaggy heads, spearheads lashed to wooden shafts. Shields fit awkwardly but transform posture. People stand taller when armored. For the first time since Edessa, you feel the martial hum of an army coalescing. Night falls, bringing cool grace and the hush of resolve settling into bone. Around a small shielded fire, you interrogate the courier. Under threats and Sabra's whispered suggestions of inventive pain, he confesses. A royal procession will pass near Jabal Bazid in 3 days, escorting spoils from Antioch, gold, slaves, battle banners taken from your own cohorts. Among the entourage rides Bahram, Shapur's son, eager to prove himself with a public humiliation of Roman prisoners. The cave seems to shrink with the weight of that name. Bahram is legend, ruthless strategist, devotee of the war god Varathragna. If he parades captured legion standards, Roman morale across the frontier collapses. Sarva spits into the dust. Break Barum, break their spine. But victory's scent curdles in your nostrils. Assaulting a prince's guard would invite annihilation. Yet ignoring it cements defeat of every banner you once saluted. You stare at the crackling fire, shadows dancing on the keyring now looped through your belt like a talisman. The gods didn't save you, the metal reminds, but maybe you can save others from gods and princes alike. A plan stirs, outrageous, ferocious, stitched from desperation and ash. Capture Barum, ransom banners and prisoners, each trade a hammer blow to Shapur's empire. It smells of certain death. It also smells like purpose. You lift your gaze to Sarva, to Sabra, to 33 fire-lit faces. 3 days, you say. We raid the prince's procession. We'll strike like lions, vanish like smoke, and leave the empire questioning its own invincibility. The wind picks up, carrying desert sand that hisses across shields. Somewhere distant, thunder echoes, not from storm but from Cataphracts hooves drilling night patrol. Fate presses close, hot and metallic on your tongue. For a heartbeat the group is silent. Then Sabra nods once, razor sharp. The boy follows. One by one, heads incline, the fragile legion reforged under the hammer of vengeance. You exhale, tasting copper, dust, and a spark of awe. No god ordained this moment, no oracle predicted it. It exists because broken people chose to weld their ruin into a spear aimed at heaven. You toss another branch on the fire. Sparks spiral upward, challenging the stars themselves to watch what comes next. Dawn to dawn, the desert becomes your forge. You hammer fear into readiness, ignorance into cunning, sparking blades against stone until every strike team can disassemble a spear, relash it as a ladder, or snap it into a caltrip blindfolded. Sabra refits concubine veils as sand filters. Sarva drills shield wall pivots on account of breath, not trumpet. The scholar paints sigils on rawhide, phoenix wings rising from a broken collar, so torchlight will mistake you for something mythic. Even the boy trains the priest to sling stones. Each thwack against cliff face a penance for prayers spoken over slaves. Night 1, you scout the wadi where Prince Barum must pass. Moonlight etches switchback cliffs like silver scars. At their throat lies a natural choke so narrow 2 camels cannot walk abreast. Perfect kill box, if you survive the opening volley. You pace the length, measure wheel ruts with your wounded calves' stride, memorize the way echo mangles a whispered word into a raven's croak. When a jackal howls, you count how long before the sound ricochets back. 3 heartbeats. Useful. Night 2, you steal an entire goat herd from a sleepy shepherd loyal to no one but coin. The meat feeds bodies. The skins become water bladders and, stuffed with dry reed, decoys you'll hang on cliff edges. Silhouettes of sentries to confuse lookouts below. You pay the shepherd with a single bronze helm. He'll brag for years how rebels made him rich. Night 3 arrives hot as hammered brass. At sunset you paint faces with ash and ox blood. War masks half Persian, half demon. 33 souls crouch among tamarisk, each heartbeat sinking to the rise and fall hush of Prince Barum's procession climbing the distant ridge. Torch chains glimmering like a molten serpent against twilight. Cymbals clang, heralds chant hymns to Varathragna, and wagon wheels creak under the weight of gold stolen from Antioch's temples. You taste bile, memories of fallen comrades flicker like sparks in dry grass. Sarva taps your shoulder, signal. You and the strike squad slither down the goat path, hugging shadow. Reeds brush leather, gravel pops beneath sandal, loud as thunder to straining nerves. Yet the column's pageantry masks everything, noble women's laughter, trumpet blasts, the priestly chorus praising Barum's invincible mercy. At the choke point, you spring the first snare. Sabra's crew topples a boulder stack you weakened hours earlier. Rockslide roars, funneling dust like volcanic ash, led Cataphracts rear, horses screaming. Confusion detonates. Before it clears, the boy's sling cracks twice. First stone clubs a standard bearer, second shatters a torch, plunging the vanguard into blind panic. You vault a sandstone spur, land amid the shield wall, and carve a path toward Barum's litter. His guard captain meets you, towering, lamellar-clad, wielding twin axes etched with fire gods. Sparks burst as saber meets axe haft. Your shoulder protests, but rage drowns pain. You feint high, sweep low, hamstring him. He drops, howling, just as Sarva crashes through behind, driving a spear point clean through the captain's neck. Blood geysers hot as furnace slag. Trumpets blare, different pitch, recall signal. The column tries to retreat, but rubble blocks the rear, and your hidden archers rain arrows from both rims. Panic becomes stampede, oxen bolt, a wagon jackknifes, spilling Antioch gold across the sand like a sunset shattered into coins. You reach Bahram's litter. Silk drapes part, revealing a youth no older than 25, eyes kohl-ringed, beard oiled into perfect curls. Surprise flashes, then imperial disdain. He draws a jeweled short sword. The blade trembles, whether from rage or fear, you can't tell. Yield, you bark in Persian thick with Latin edges. Or this gorge becomes your tomb. He spits a curse and lunges. Steel kisses steel, sparks fly. For a prince, his form is deadly precise, years of tutors honing vanity into danger. Your calf flares with every pivot, but you parry, riposte, press. The gorge narrows your dance. One misstep is stone wall or drop. He thrusts high, you knock aside, twist inside his guard, lock hilts. Faces inches apart, you smell saffron on his breath. You, he snarls, are nothing. You headbutt him. Crown of skull meets patrician nose, cartilage crunches. He staggers, eyes watering. Sarva's arm snakes around, choking from behind. Together you drag the coughing prince into shadow, bind wrists with the crimson priest sash, a poetic knot. All around, the fight tilts. Your rebels seize fallen weapons, form staggered lines. Enemy morale buckles under the realization their commander is missing. But victory risks turning to slaughter if you linger. Royal reserves canter somewhere beyond the next ridge. You whistle the retreat signal. 3 rising notes that echo like a hawk's cry. The jackal timing paid off. Archers disengage, scrambling up goat trails. Ground teams form wedge around the struggling prince and mule train of liberated prisoners. Scores more you cut loose from cages on supply wagons. Their shackles still jingle, but their eyes blaze. As you ascend the cliff path, last light catches the horizon, a line of dust racing closer, imperial pennants whipping crimson black. Reinforcements. Minutes away. Below, chaos devours the choke point. Burning wagons, horses tangled in harness, gold coins twinkling under torch smoke. Your rebels withdraw with disciplined haste, but one cataphract rallies a knot of troops, chasing your rear guard. Sabr turns, hurls the courier's spear like a javelin. It skewers horse and rider both, buying precious seconds. You crest the rim just as a warhorn howls, bitter and huge, vibrating stone underfoot. The empire knows its prince is gone. Moonrise bathes your fugitives in ghost light as you melt into the high desert. 33 grown to nearly 60, bearing a shackled royal and 3 battered legion standards reclaimed from a cart. Behind you, an empire shrieks in wounded pride. Ahead, dunes curl like sleeping leviathans, keeping their secrets. Breath ragged, you heft Bahram's sword, now yours, and stare at the keyring on your belt. 5 keys open collars. 1 captured a prince. What lock will the next turn? Sand whispers around your boots, cold as prophecy. Night's chill hasn't yet fled when you halt the column beneath a crumbling watchtower. The kind Rome built 2 centuries ago, long before frontiers bled westward. Sand has eaten half the rampart, but cisterns still lie beneath, their echo promising water. Sarva pries the iron grate free, and cool darkness exhales a breath heavy with wet limestone and frog croak. 60 rebels pass skins hand to hand, silence broken only by gulps and soft moans of relief. Even Bahram, wrists raw from the sash, drinks, though he glares over the rim like a leopard forced to lap from a slave's bowl. You bind his nose with linen soaked in vinegar. Broken cartilage needs setting. He flinches, but pain blunts arrogance. For the first time, his eyes search your face not with disdain, but calculation. How does a legion dog weave peasants into a spear? He mutters in serviceable Latin. Men obey whoever gives them a horizon wider than their chains. You answer, cinching the cloth tighter than necessary. Tell me, does your empire offer them more than whips and graves? He snorts, winces, then smirks. It offers inevitability. You can bruise fate, Roman, never break it. We'll test that, you think, standing. Dawn is smearing the sky poppy red, and with light comes resolve. Ransom the prince, trade flesh for flesh, banners for brothers. Somewhere beyond the eastern dunes lies Dur Europos, last Roman bastion on this stretch of Euphrates, ragged, undermanned, but still under the eagle. If you can deliver Bahram to its gates, governors will empty coffers, release captives, maybe even grant amnesty. If plans blossom like fever in council that afternoon. The scholar unrolls a map inked on goat hide, points to an oasis called Al-Kunays, neutral ground controlled by Nabatean traders who worship profit above flags. Sabra suggests sending the priest, still bound, as herald, dressed again in his blood-sodden linen, and armed with Bahram's seal ring you stripped while he slept. Let him preach our demands, she hisses, or choke on them. Sarva favors swifter knives. Kill the princeling now, mail his head to Shapur. Fear heavier than gold. The cave rustles with uneasy breaths, vengeance tempting, but beheading hope as well. You weigh arguments, finger the keyring. Keys unlock more than collars, they choose doors you must walk through. Finally you decree, ransom. Dead, Bahram becomes a martyr. Alive, he's leverage. Eyes meet yours, some relieved, some doubtful, but none protest. Decision carves certainty from chaos. That night, desert wind howls through tower slits like ghosts of old cohorts. You can't sleep. Outside, the boy keeps watch, sling ready. The prince sits shackled nearby, moonlight silvering the blood under his swollen nose. What drives you? He asks suddenly, voice hoarse but curious. Not coin. Not empire any longer. You stare at the bone-white dunes, remember Naso's arrow-pinned corpse, remember collars biting. I used to think gods chose victors, you say. Now I think victors are the ones who stop waiting for gods. Bahram chuckles, a ragged sound. We are alike then. I too stopped waiting. I became a god. His smile is half mad from pain, half sincere conviction. You shiver despite the heat. 2 days' march brings you to Al-Kunays. Date palms circling a mirror-bright pool, merchant tents striped crimson and sapphire, the air thick with cardamom and camel musk. Traders eye your band warily, armed, dusty, trailing a royal with bruised pride. You pay in Antioch gold fallen from Shapur's wagons. Coin buys neutrality, secrecy, figs, and rumor. Rumor stings. Shapur's immortals massacre Ctesiphon. Prince's banner overturned to black for vengeance. Bounty posted. 3,000 silver drachmae for Lucius Phineas, dead or breathing. Your name, once a line in legion rolls, now a curse on tavern lips. Fear flickers in rebel eyes like candle shadows. You stiffen spines with whispered reminders of banners reclaimed, captives freed. At dusk you send the priest, now cleaned and re-robed, riding a white mule toward the Euphrates with letter sealed and ring pressed into wax. Exchange Bahram for 500 Roman prisoners and passage west. Meet at the Narrows at full moon. Harm couriers, and the prince loses a finger each dawn. Harsh, but mercy rarely moves empires. Hours drip by. Bahram paces inside palm thicket cage, chains clinking lullaby of resentment. Sabra sharpens daggers on whetstone, shushu, each stroke a warning not to trust time. The scholar drafts battle diagrams in dust, Sarva mutters to horse spirits. The boy, restless, practices sling arcs over the oasis pool, stones plunking concentric rings that swallow stars' reflections. 3 mornings later, the priest staggers back under blazing sun, robe torn, eyes white with shock. He collapses at your feet, croaking one phrase, "Immortals already here." You wrench him up, words spill, your missive never reached Roman lines. A nomad patrol seized him, read demands, then let him go, to lure you into confidence while elite trackers encircled Al-Kunays. 80 immortals, maybe more, tightening noose as we speak. Full moon is tonight, the Narrows a trap. Sarva's jaw knots. So we smash through before they finish circle. No, you say, heartbeat drumming ribs. We'll invert the trap. Cliff faces around oasis rise sheer, honeycombed with ancient catacombs, labyrinths Roman engineers once quarried. If you funnel immortals inside, their massive scale armor becomes coffin plates. Guerrilla labyrinth warfare. But first, you must convince merchants to vanish, surrender tents and stock so battleground stays empty. Gold persuades, and the promise of scavenging Persian loot afterward seals deal. By dusk, oasis stands eerily still. Date palms rustle over silent pool. Striped tents lie flattened into dunes. Night drops like a blade. Torch clusters glimmer at horizon, scouts, then full columns. The immortals march in haunting cadence. Bronze boots crunch, war drums boom heart slow. Their helms bear silver bulls, moonlight kissing horns. Shields interlock into a glistening carapace. You station slingers among palm tops, archers in jawbone tomb mouths above quarry shafts. Spear teams crouch behind fallen tents rigged as trip nets. Sabra whispers over each blade, vow stitched into steel. You stand beside Bahram, dagger poised at his throat, visible silhouette on dune crest, a goat offered to lion, but the goat has teeth. The immortal captain steps forward, voice echoing across water. Release Bahram, kneel, and you might greet tomorrow. You drag Prince closer to cliff edge. Trade for prisoners, you shout, or watch your godchild bleed. A hush so deep the wind forgets to breathe. Then laughter low and chilling. Bahram himself. Fool Roman, he calls, eyes alight. You think you hold me? I am the Empire. They will carve through your bowels to reach me, and I will step over your corpses wearing a crown of your teeth. Some rebels waver, fear's worm rides anew. Before doubt blooms, you shove Bahram toward the cliff lip, knife nicking his ear. Blood beads black. Gasps ripple, even immortals brace. Snap, Sarva looses the first arrow. It whistles, strikes a captain's eye slit. As the man falls, giant nets yank upward, entangling the front rank. Palm-top slingers rain stones that crack bronze like eggshell. You yank Bahram backward into catacomb mouth just as archers behind unleash. Battle implodes, immortals charging blindly into maze, torches snuffed by cross-drafts, armor scraping stone in sparks. Inside, tunnels twist like serpent guts, rebels dart through side shafts, stabbing ankles under greaves, slitting throats from shadow. Your ears ring with clang and screams magnified tenfold by echo chambers, carnage symphony. But immortals earn their dread. Their commander bellows shield back, and ranks form iron hedgehogs, crawling corridor by corridor, stabbing into darkness. Rebels fall, you trip over the scholar's body, scroll diagrams soaking in his blood. Sabra limps past, dagger buried in her thigh yet still fighting. The boy hurls last stone straight into a visor slit, then a gauntlet crushes his wrist, his scream knifes your soul. Amid chaos, Bahram jerks free, headbutts you bolts deeper into maze. Pain explodes in cheek, stars burst across vision. You chase, blood roaring, Sabra behind, Sarva somewhere battling three at once. Footfalls slap limestone, torch smoke stings lungs. Bahram ducks into burial chamber where moonlight spills through roof crack, igniting dust to silver snow. He whirls, finds a funeral glaive atop a sarcophagus, blade edge chipped but serviceable. You face him, saber up, heart-clawing chest. Outside, immortals roar in vengeance. Inside, silence holds its breath. Two destinies balanced on one rusted edge. End this, you say, not sure if pleading or commanding. Bahram smiles bloody. Yes. Let us. Steel sings. Moon dust drifts between you like slow-falling ash, and every grain seems to hum with the question of whom it will settle on, victor or corpse. Bahram circles left, one sandal sliding over centuries of bone powder, glaive tip painting a lazy halo that masks lethal intent. Your saber feels suddenly short, almost fragile. Sweat seeps into the leather grip, mixing with the prince's blood from your earlier clash. A heartbeat drums behind your eyes so loudly you fear he can hear it. He feints high, blade kissing the shaft of moonlight from the roof crack, a blinding flash, then lunges low. You parry, steel screeching over nicked bronze, sparks leap like fireflies and die mid-air. Pain riots down your wounded calf, but you pivot anyway, riposting toward his ribs. He twists, tunic flaring, and your edge scores only silk. The scent of saffron and iron fills the crypt, sharp enough to taste. Outside, catacomb tunnels thunder with immortal boots and rebel cries, but here sound feels muffled, as though stone walls have turned to thick velvet. Time stretches, thin and brittle. Bahram smiles, bloody teeth, cracked lip. See how the gods write endings, he pants. Prince against fallen legionary, moon as witness. Poets will savor my triumph. Poets seldom hear the truth. You rasp and step in with a brutal throat cut that should end him. He catches your wrist, surprising strength locking joints. For one awful instant you are nose to nose again, his breath hot, metallic. Truth, he whispers, eyes wild, is forged by whoever lives. His forehead smashes yours. Stars burst, your knees sag. He shoves, and you stumble against a sarcophagus, Roman craftsmanship, eagle engraving half eroded. Marble hammer's bruised spine. Bahram charges, glaive seeking heart. You roll aside. The blade clangs stone, sending up a ringing shriek that ricochets down corridors like an alarm bell. Adrenaline floods anew. As he recovers, you spot a crack in the tomb lid, just wide enough. You wedge fingertips, heave. Centuries of dust billow as the slab tilts, crashing to floor with seismic finality. Coffin air gusts rot and dry myrtle. Inside lies a legion standard, silk mostly moth-eaten but recognizable, red field, gold SBQR, a relic entombed with its bearer. Symbol of every oath you once breathed. Bahram hesitates, gaze snagged by the fallen banner. A flicker, curiosity? Fear? Doesn't matter. You snatch the standard's iron spear shaft, vault up, and thrust like a pike. Bronze but slams his breastplate, driving him back. He snarls, recovers guard, lashes a hooking cut that slices your bicep open to bone. Warm blood sprays, pattering the ancient silk at your feet. Torches bloom in the corridor mouth, immortals breaching inner chambers. Their commander roars Bahram's name. He answers with a triumphant bark, lunging again, hoping to finish you before allies arrive. You parry but wrists tremor, saber almost wrenches free. He sees weakness, presses. Each clash drives you a step closer to the roof-cracked beam, prime kill zone for arrows. You risk a glance. Sabra staggers in doorway, dagger still in thigh, chased by two immortals. She sees your peril, hurls a throwing knife blindly. It clatters off Bahram's vambrace, distraction enough. You knee his thigh, twist inside reach, slash upward. Steel parts flesh along his ribs, his hiss becomes a ragged scream. Rage eclipses caution. He whirls wide, exposing flank, slashes a wild moon arc that forces you to dive. As you hit ground, pain detonates shoulder wound. Saber skitters away, ringing. Your fingers close on marble shard instead. Bahram looms, raising glaive two-handed for execution stroke. His armor gleams wet crimson. Kneel, he rasps, voice shredded, and beg Varathragna. You rise to one knee, kneeling but not begging, and drive the jagged shard into the soft point just above his knee guard. Cartilage pops. He howls, buckles. You yank downward, ripping tendon, royal blood splatters tomb floor. His glaive tumbles. You snatch at mid-fall and, with a roar that splits throat raw, swing in a savage horizontal cut. Edge meets his gauntlet wrist, chonk, severs hand clean. The hand, still gripping nothing, thuds near fallen standard. Bahram's scream curdles into animal howl. He stumbles, clutching stump, eyes vast with disbelief. Immortals crash into chamber, but halt, shock frozen, at sight of their prince disarmed, bleeding out on ancestral stone. Silence hangs a heartbeat. Then Sarva barrels in behind them, spear half laid horizontal, clotheslining two at once. Sabra limps to your side, bracing you up. Finish, she urges. You plant boot on Bahram's chest, press him against sarcophagus edge. Order surrender. You bark through blood froth. He spits gore. Better to die a god. Your grip tightens on glaive, but you remember the power of a living hostage. Killing him would ignite endless pursuit, maiming already cracked empire's veneer. You pivot, slam the flat of blade against his temple. He slumps unconscious, stump still pumping dark life. The immortals surge, frenzy building. You raise the glaive high, Bahram's limp body dangling from your other fist like a grisly banner. Stand down, you roar. Another step, and the prince never draws breath again. Their commander, visor blood-flecked, hesitates. Sarva pins him with spear point. Rebels fan out, weapons bloody but eyes blazing. For a breathless eternity, destiny tilts. A voice, child's, pierces carnage. The boy, wrist-bound in makeshift splint, staggers in holding the ancient Roman standard aloft. Its ragged silk flutters like phoenix ash. He is our hostage now, the boy shouts. And we are no one's slaves. The declaration cracks something unseen. Immortals ease weapons down. Armor creaks, breaths gust. They are soldiers, but their prince's life suspends them in a strange purgatory. Sabra ties a tourniquet on Bahram's stump, face set. You address the commander. Escort us to the Narrows. Exchange prince for prisoners, banners, and safe passage. Refuse, and your royal bleeds dry before your eyes. He studies you, blood-smeared, swaying with exhaustion, yet unbroken. Finally he nods once, slow as grinding millstone. The Narrows, he concedes, voice gravel. A tremor of relief gusts through rebel ranks, but you know storms, I can be dead calm. You meet Sarva's gaze. Plan stands, leverage intact, but everything rides on the imminent trade. Empire's wrath, your people's hope, the fickle whims of fate. You lift the battered Roman eagle, its gilt dulled by centuries, and plant it beside broken prince. Tomorrow, you vow aloud, chains will change hands. Outside, dawn's earliest glow probes catacomb mouth, gilding dust motes around blade edges and blood pools, painting victory colors indistinguishable from sacrifice. The Narrows lies 2 hard marches northeast, a wind-carved cleft where the Euphrates bends and the cliffs on either side lean so close the river narrows to the width of a shouting match. You choose that place not only because the immortals suggested it, but because the gorge has only 2 usable approaches, perfect choke points if promises sour into treachery. Mid-morning, with the bright sun already flattening every color into glare, your battered column files out of the catacombs. 60-odd rebels hobble beside a wedge of 20 wary immortals, their silver bull helms turned inward to watch you, outward to skin dunes for vultures of opportunity. At the formation's heart rides Bahram, bandaged stump bound tight in fig bark and linen, cheeks slick with fever sweat. He sways in the saddle of a gray mare you commandeered, chained at ankle and wrist, yet holding himself with a prince's straight spine, as though posture alone can cauterize humiliation. You keep glaive without hand, as the rebels have begun calling it, across your lap, blade still lacquered with his blood. One glance at the weapon reminds the column why they keep pace. Sarva ranges along the flanks like a wolfhound, spear-tapping helmet rims whenever vigilance droops. Sabra rides behind the litter of wounded, her thighs stitched with horsehair, but her eyes sharpened by pain into obsidian. The boy, wrists splinted, now carries the restored Legion standard lashed to a staff cut from desert teak. Faded SBQR ripples above the file like a half-remembered dream of order. Between columns of rock the air grows furnace still. Flies fuss around Bahram's bandages. He jerks his head to shoo them, but the lazy buzzing seems only to deepen the hush. You pass stone outcroppings carved by generations of caravanners into prayer niches, each stuffed with desiccated offerings, beads, dates, a child's carved wooden horse splintering in the sun. The contrast between forgotten pleas and your lethal procession gnaws the edges of your resolve. By dusk you reach the narrows. The cliffs rear up, basalt striped with flint like a giant's fossil ribs, and the river below claws foamy eddies against both banks. You choose a terrace sheltered under an overhang. Wind screams above but leaves the camp still, as if the gods themselves have cupped a hand to hear what bargain mere mortals will strike. Immortals post sentries at the upper trail. Your archers mirror them across a dry gully. All night torches gutter, spitting resin sparks, while tension coils tight enough to twang. Just past midnight Bahram's fever spikes. He thrashes against his chains, muttering battle hymns in a child's sing-song, then lapses into silence so deep the camp doctors look to you for permission to intervene. You grant it. If he dies now, you remind everyone, the Empire's wrath will outlive you by decades. The priest, still captive but grateful to be useful, brews a decoction of willow bark and mint. You hold the cup to Bahram's lips. For a heartbeat he focuses on you, pupils blown wide. Tell me, he rasps, when fate unspools tomorrow, do you become the monster or do I? You don't answer. Instead you tip the bitter brew between his cracked lips and wonder which of you is poisoning whom. Dawn breaks copper over basalt. From the northern track comes a shimmer of spear points, hundreds of them, gliding like a shoal of fish beneath dust. At their center trundle wagons draped in white, the universal flag for prisoner exchange. Atop the lead cart flaps not one but 5 Legion banners, silk renewed, gold eagles polished to glare like second suns. Behind the banners stand chained Romans, ragged, sun-darting eyes but alive. Your ribs tighten until every breath tastes of rust. Closer, you count heads. More than 400 captives, 24 coffers heavy enough to promise ransom bullion, and perhaps 300 Persian soldiers in escort. Enough to erase your rebels the moment negotiation falters. The immortal commander beside you, name finally offered as Farak, studies the convoy with unreadable eyes. Orders are clear, he murmurs. You walk away with prisoners and passage, we walk away with our prince. But promises in war rest on sand. You summon Sarva, Sabra, the boy, and the scholar's second, now acting tactician. Quietly you sketch contingency. Flanking cliffs hold boulders loosened yesterday by hidden picks. Rope slings are rigged so one tug drops an avalanche into the gorge. Archers on the ledges carry firepots of tar thickened with goat fat. If double cross comes, you will turn the narrows into a tomb, even at the cost of drowning yourself. High noon. Both forces form mirrored corridors leading to a bare slab of riverbank midway. The exchange ground. Heat shimmers plastic thick. Armor plates hiss at every breath. You guide Bahram forward, glaive laid across his shoulders like a yoke. Farak paces beside, jaw clenched. From the opposite side advances a Roman tribune in smoke-stained cuirass, his face an exhausted map of months in captivity. He escorts the first 10 prisoners, 2 limping, 1 coughing blood into a rag, but their eyes ignite when they see SBQR fluttering behind your ranks. Midpoint, you halt. Wind hushes. River gnaws stone below like distant applause. Tribune thumps fist to heart. Lucius Fenius? Present, you reply, voice cracked yet steady. We bring what was promised. Release the prince. You lock gaze with Farak, then unlatch Bahram's wrist manacle, but leave the ankle chain until the tribune beckons his men forward with keys. The first group of Romans cross. Rebels escort them behind your line, quickly checking shackles for hidden blades. 10 Persians advance in counterstep to claim Bahram. Sweat rivers down your spine. Each footfall sounds like a dirge drum. Moment of handoff. Farak kneels, pressing forehead to Bahram's, whispering something you can't hear. The prince's eyes flare with what may be gratitude or a war plan. Keys click. Chain falls away. He stands on shaking legs but lifts chin high. For a blink you almost respect the feral grandeur of a maimed god refusing to bow. Then a horn blasts from the Persian rear, tone you recognize as attack cadence. Your mouth goes ice. Farrak's face mirrors shock. This order wasn't his. From the canyon lip, fresh cavalry detach, standard of Shapur himself, charging down the slope, arrows already knocked. Betrayal. Scatter! You roar, grabbing the tribune's arm and shoving him toward your line. Sabra yanks the boy aside. Sarva hurls a spear that pierces the throat of the first rider. Chaos detonates. Romans sprint, prisoners stumble, immortals spin unsure where loyalty lies. Bahram staggers, caught between worlds. Then a stray shaft thunks into his shoulder, pitching him to his knees beside you. Above, the rope slings await your tug. One pull, and the gorge seals in rock and fire, killing friend and foe alike, but denying Shapur triumph. Your hand hovers inches from the line. Farrak sees, eyes widening. Do it, he pants, fury sharpening every syllable. Better ashes than chains, on both our heads. You freeze. Around you tumble shouts, hooves, the wet chop of blade through flesh. The tribune claws at your sleeve. Lucius, we still have a chance. Those coffers hold gold enough to bribe the riders if we can reach them. Sarva bellows for orders. Sabra bleeds from a new gash. The boy raises the legion standard, waving it like a flare in storm winds. Bahram, half-conscious, grips your ankle with his remaining hand. His fever-bright eyes lock on yours. Finish the story, he croaks, voice barely air. Break fate. The tug line roughens your palm. Every possible tomorrow balances on that single braided hemp. Pull, and you end the prince, the riders, likely yourself, but ensure legends sing of slaves who toppled empires in one roaring avalanche. Spare them, and gamble on a bribe, a breakout, a miracle of human greed. Dust and sunlight swirl, the river hammers stone below. You feel the entire desert leaning forward to watch which monster you choose to be. Time seems to hiccup, one ragged heartbeat stretching wide enough to contain a lifetime of what-ifs. Your fist tightens on the hemp. You could yank now and bury Prince, ransom, reinforcements, everything, under a cataract of fire-slick boulders. History would record a final sentence, abrupt and undeniable. They chose freedom over mercy, and the cliffs obeyed. But even in this split second you sense other lines waiting to be written, threads glimmering just beyond ruin. A rider breaks formation, spurring downhill so fast his horse's shoes spark flint. He waves a white kerchief above his helm, parley or ruse. Arrows hiss behind him, loosed by overeager comrades. One shaft feathers his mount's rump. Horse and man tumble, sliding to a stop in a spray of river pebbles. The kerchief flutters to your feet, blotched with red. Farrak curses, realizing the charge isn't sanctioned by any chain of command. Shapur's zealots have taken matters into their own mailed fists. My men stand with the bargain, he snarls. Those fools belong to the court wolves. And then, to prove it, he shoves Bahram bodily behind your shield wall, interposing himself between the prince and the oncoming cavalry. Immortals pivot with him, silver bull helms forming a crescent that shelters former enemies. Steel shrieks on steel as the first wave of royal riders slams the mixed line. Your rebels and the immortals lock shields in an awkward jigsaw. Gaps gape where discipline doesn't align. A lance head punches through, skewering a freed concubine just left of you. She gasps, eyes bright with shock before sliding away like water through fingers. Rage detonates inside your ribs. You hack the lance haft, yank, and fling the splintered end back at its owner. It hammers his visor, snapping neck backward. The tribune barks Latin orders. Old legion drill snapping the dazed prisoners into ranks, even shackled. They lift the coffers as if they were turtles' hell scuta, gold coins clinking like hailstones inside. A second rider's scimitar bounces harmlessly off a chest full of aurii. He reels, startled, and Sarva's spear drills him from saddle to sand. You glimpse the boy atop a boulder stack, standard raised high, crimson banner catching sunlight like an omen. His sling arm is useless, but that flag is a beacon. Every Roman eye rivets to it, spines straighten, voices roar. The fractured mob begins to knit itself into something resembling an army. Heat ripples over your vision, sweat stings cuts like acid. The rope still loops your wrist, each twitch a threat. But the tide has shifted. Farrak's immortals and your rebels are holding barely. If they can stall until the riders see profit bleeding away, bribery might yet trump bloodlust. Sabra, thigh crimson, limps to your side carrying one of the ransom coffers pried open. Inside, sunlight blazes off fluted cups, emerald-studded torques, enough glitter to drown conscience. She tips the box. Treasure reigns before the hooves of the second charge. Horses shy, riders curse. Gold buys pauses, she rasps. Use it. You snatch a fistful of coin and hurl it high. Orei arc through the blue, spinning suns. When they hit, they sing on basalt. More coins follow, poured by prisoners desperate for any weapon. Cavalry momentum falters. Hooves slip on round metal. One horse goes down, another rears. Voices rise from the rear ranks, shouted arguments about loot, orders, honor. The charge splinters. A gap yawns in their line. You seize the moment. Advance, you roar in Persian and Latin both. Immortals and rebels surge, punching into confusion, turning defense into rolling wedge. Shields slam, swords carve, and suddenly the attackers are backing downslope, dazzled by coin glitter and the impossible sight of their own royal guard fighting beside escaped slaves. Bahram drags himself upright on a broken spear as crutch. Fever glaze clouds his pupils, yet his voice slices clear. Stand aside, he commands the riders. By my blood, I forbid this fight. But the fanatics either do not hear or refuse to heed. Shapur's black pennant elite answer to crown, not crown prince. Arrows whistle from the cliff rims. Your archers finally find angles. Firepots crash among cavalry, tar splattering into sticky infernos that cling to lamellar plates. Horses scream, kicking sparks. Rider discipline unravels. Some leap into the shallows, choosing water over flame. Others break and flee upslope, trailing smoke like comets. You feel the tide turning in your bones, the strangest sensation, like chains evaporating molecule by molecule. Then a new danger swoops, a royal war elephant cresting the northern bend, Mahout whipping it down the narrow shelf path. Turquoise armor plates sheath its flanks. Atop its howdah glitters a bolt thrower. One direct volley will pulp your crammed ranks or shred the overhanging rope rig, destroying both victory and escape. There's no time for debate. You sprint across the cluttered battlefield, ducking splinters and sparks, and leap onto a tipped wagon half-submerged at river edge. From there you clamber a leaning pine that overhangs the gorge, an old smuggler's lookout. Halfway up, the trunk bucks under arrow impacts, but you climb anyway, lungs blazing. At the top you crawl onto a narrow ledge where the primary pulley for the boulder rig is anchored. Just beyond, the war elephant's path bends beneath the cliff, close enough that if you drop the avalanche now, you risk striking Farrakha's men holding the line. Wait too long, bolt thrower fires. Heartbeat drumroll. The Mahout draws bead, crank ratcheting. You glimpse the boy below, waving standard in frantic figure eights, signaling hold. He's seen something. Farrakh and Sarva are driving straight for the elephant on captured horses, spears couched. Two lone riders against a fortress of muscle and bronze. You shear the pulley rope halfway through, enough that a tug later will finish the cut and slide back down the pine. Splinters flay your palms, bark burns your forearm. You hit ground running to intercept the riders if they fail. They don't. Sarva's spear buries to haft in the beast's eye. The elephant screams, rearing. Bolt flies wild into an empty sky. Farrakha's mount skids, crushes under the elephant's collapsing bulk, pinning him. Dust geysers, the path clogs with 10 tons of thrashing flesh, sealing the northern entry tighter than any rockfall. The battlefield freezes. Survivors from Shapur's detachment stare, stunned. Rebels and immortals lower weapons, panting, ash-streaked, ringed by smoking tar pools. Somewhere a single gold coin ticks against stone and settles. You hurry to Farrakh, knee-deep in dust clouds. He's crushed from hip to shin, blood pooling. Eyes grim, he pushes Bahram's seal ring into your palm. Take him west, he rasps. Tell the world some immortals kept their oaths. Breath rattles. And tell Shapur loyalty cuts both ways. You press his hand until it stills, then close his lids. Around you, enemy survivors drop blades and raise empty palms. They've seen princes bleed and elephants fall. They've smelled their own armor burn. Whatever mad loyalty drove them here, desert winds have scoured it raw. You step onto a wagon tongue, lift the legion banner with one hand and the seal ring with the other. Voice ragged but carrying. This fight ends. Any who still crave blood can carve it from the cliffs. We will not stop you. Any who choose mercy, march with us to the river crossing. The road west is open. Silence, or maybe all settles. Then a rider unstraps helm, tosses it aside, and nudges horse toward your line. Another follows on foot. One by one, weapons clatter to ground like hail. The river keeps flowing, but the war has paused to inhale. You turn to Bahram. He sags in his saddle, pulse fluttering at his throat. Fever or shock, you can't tell. His gaze finds yours, mingled loathing and something like reluctant wonder. Roman, he whispers, cracked as broken pottery, how many kings will your disobedience unmake? Enough, you murmur, until collars rust on empty necks. Across the narrows, former slaves retrieve the dropped coffers, but coins no longer matter. They heft wounded on makeshift litters, offer water skins to former guards, bind gashes with strips torn from ransom silks. The sun, sliding westward, bronzes every face the same burnished copper. Birds circle overhead, cawing, as if even carrion feeders admit the day has earned its legend. Yet dusk will bring new choices. Whether to honor truce, how to ferry 400 freed souls across enemy land, what to do with a maimed prince who still believes himself divine. You glance up at the cliffline pulley, rope frayed to one final strand. It sways in breeze like a severed fate thread that somehow refused to snap. Not all locks demand keys, some unlock when left deliberately unbroken. Somewhere deep inside, beneath scars and doubt, you hear Mars laughing. Not mockery this time, but approval, a war god's applause for mortals who rewrote their own omens. Ahead waits the river crossing, the long march, Rome's uncertain welcome. Behind lies a gorge littered with burnt armor and still glinting gold, mute witness that chains can fracture, loyalties invert, and empires blink. You square your aching shoulders, signal the column forward, and step onto the stones that lead into twilight. Twilight deepens into velvet, and the Euphrates glimmers like a blade laid flat under the first stars. The ragtag column tests the ford barefoot, cool current numbing torn soles, river silt oozing between toes. You taste the water, brackish but drinkable. Lightning bugs waltz over reeds, drawing soft gasps from men who haven't seen gentleness in months. Somewhere downriver a jackal yips, answered by its mate, a reminder that predators never roam alone. Order of crossing is brutal math, wounded first, prisoners next, coffers last. Spearheads lashed to oar shafts scavenged from wrecked ferries, forming makeshift stretchers for those too broken to wade. Sabra shoulders the boy's sling arm around her neck, half lifting him as he splashes forward, banner tilted skyward like a stubborn sapling refusing desert winds. Behind, immortal survivors ferry their fallen comrades, silver bull helms replaced by linen bandages that glow ghost white in moonlight. Midstream, chill bites bone. Armor drags like an anchor. Current tugs with the persistence of a tax collector. Two freed concubines lose footing, whirl away in silent panic until Sarva dives, arrowing through black water to yank them back by hair and tunic. When they reach the far bank, they cling to him, sobbing into his wolf-tattooed chest. He merely grunts, water sluicing off scarred shoulders like liquid mercury. Your turn comes last, Bahram half draped across your back, stump bound in fresh willow bark, fever radiating through his silks like furnace heat. If I drown, he murmurs, voice shivering, know that Varathragna will hunt you through every underworld. His breath smells of crushed mint and old blood. Get in line, you mutter, jaws chattering. River rises waist deep, then chest deep. Glaive held overhead reflects moon silver. Each step feels like negotiating with invisible hands that want a prince as tribute. At knee-high rapids, Bahram convulses. Pain spasm knocks balance. You stagger, almost pitching both of you under. His remaining hand claws your shoulder, nails digging flesh. A surge of cold terror crackles like static. If he slips away, everything shatters. Then a new grip clamps your forearm. Farrak's lieutenant, face soot-smeared, eyes haunted, wades beside you, lending silent strength. Together you ferry the semi-conscious prince to safety, River giving him up with a reluctant hush. When the last coffer thuds onto damp sand, you count. 392 Romans, 31 immortals, 38 former slaves of assorted kingdoms, and one delirious royal hostage. Plus gold enough to corrupt a bishopric. Moon ripens overhead. Fires spark along the bank, small, shielded, fed with driftwood and caution. Cookpots bubble lentils and goat strips. The smell coils through camp like a lullaby. For the first time in weeks, no one hears whips or horns. Only the crackle of fire, the sigh of wind, and the low murmur of strangers relearning conversation. You sit apart on a flat rock, scrubbing river silt from the shattered legion standard. Its silk is an unraveling tapestry of battles long buried, but under grime you uncover one gilt stitch still intact, an eagle's talon gripping thunderbolt. You imagine the gods squinting at that stubborn talon, unsure whether to bless or smite. Footsteps crunch. The tribune kneels, offering a dented wine flask. "Decurion no more," he says, voice raw, "but Gaius Julius Asper at your service." He gestures toward the mingled campfires. "They're calling us the Legio Vigari, the Wandering Legion." A faint smile flickers. "Rome may court-martial us or crown us, depending on whose scrolls arrive first." You drink, wine gritty with sand, yet nectar after months of dust. "We're not across the frontier yet," you remind him. The Syrian desert yawns westward, and rumor says Shapur's main host is mustering at Carrhae, blocking the Silk Road. Worse, Roman governor Odenathus of Palmyra is playing both sides, taxing refugees for passage. Asper shrugs. "Palmyra loves profit. We have coffers, we negotiate. But both of you know gold tempts daggers at night." A sudden cough explodes behind, Bahram propped on blankets, eyes blazing fever blue. "Negotiate with coin," he rasps, "and you invite thieves. Negotiate with symbols," his gaze flicks to the battered eagle, "and you invite armies." He coughs again, reddish saliva staining linen. "Send me home limbless, and my father bleeds Asia dry. Keep me alive beside your banner, and kingdoms will tilt wondering whom fate favors." He breaks into ragged laughter that collapses into wheeze. You stand, wine-burning throat. "Rest, prince. Tomorrow we march." But sleep evades you. Night's quiet is too loud, filled with what-if whispers. At dawn you convene war council under fading stars. Sarva, Sabra, Asper, the boy, Faraka's lieutenant, and 2 slave women elected by their fellows. Voices converge. Routes through Tadmor Oasis, bribes for Palmyrene scouts, disguises using stolen Persian uniforms, ration counts, arrow shortages, morale metrics. Every plan spirals back to the same pivot, Bahram. Sabra proposes a daring gambit, broadcast a proclamation that the prince renounces Shapur's anti-slave edicts and grants amnesty to all who join your march. Bahram's seal ring could stamp the decree. Fevered or not, his thumbprint seals authority. Persian deserters would flock, swelling ranks faster than any legion relief. Asper objects. "Rome will brand us rebels harboring enemy royalty. We'll be hunted from both capitals." Sarva counters. "We're hunted anyway. Let hunters choke on numbers." Debate simmers until sun climbs high and shade shrinks. Finally you lift the glaive, its edge catching noon like a shard of promise. "We forged this rebellion by refusing collars," you say. "If we start chaining our options to fear, we'll rust before reaching Palmyra. We'll issue Sabra's proclamation at Tadmor. Let destiny decide who answers." Consensus, reluctant but real, tightens like fresh bandage. Camp breaks just as hot wind gusts east, carrying faint trumpets. Distant columns on the Persian bank, tiny as ants yet unmistakable. Shapur's main host has found your trail. Dust banners swirl beneath black eagles, 30, maybe 40,000. A murmur ripples through your people, half awe, half dread. You hoist the legion's standard, tattered cloth snapping like a gauntlet. "They think distance is shield," you shout. "We'll show them distance is fuse." The wandering legion sets west toward Tadmor, footprints beating rhythm into baked clay. Each mile unspools new uncertainties, sandstorms seething on horizon, oases that may be poisoned, Palmyra's fickle gates, but also new resolve. Coins jingle in coffers, yes, but louder rings the echo of a broken prince's vow. Finish the story. Break fate. Behind, Bahram's litter bumps over ruts, and though fever dims his gaze, a crooked smile tugs his lips, as if he senses the wild narrative you're scripting with every reckless step. Above, vultures wheel, but at a respectful height, as though unsure whether this moving miracle is meal or myth. Ahead, the desert opens its furnace mouth, daring you to cross. Night devours the dunes in layers, indigo, then black, then a pitch so thick it seems to press on your eyeballs. 3 days out of the narrows, the wandering legion staggers beneath a sky whipped raw by sirocco winds. Sand needles cheeks, roars into lungs, every exhale tastes of copper. Ahead, the glow of Tadmor's torch-crowned battlements flutters like a mirage, promising water and walls, or blades and betrayal. Odenathus the Palmyrene meets you at dawn, astride a stallion the color of smelted iron. His lamellar armor jingles with silver rings minted from half the caravans of Arabia. Eyes narrowing at the sight of Bahram's litter, he smiles the way a crocodile might smile at a stranded goat. "Rome pays bounty for that prince," he purrs in Greek-laced Latin, "and Persia doubles it. What coin have you that could match 2 empires' hunger?" You offer him the seal ring, the coffers, the oath of 400 veterans. Sand hisses past, punctuating each word like flung gravel. Odenathus flicks a glance at the coffers, unimpressed. Gold melts, he says. Alloy me something harder, leverage. Sabra steps forward, proclamation scroll unfurled. Leverage is a nation of freedmen marching behind Bahram's amnesty. The prince, fever-shaken yet lucid, drags himself upright, thumb poised over the seal wax. Odenathus chuckles. A dying godling's signature? My bankers prefer living guarantors. Tension coils. The boy raises the shredded eagle. Sarva's spear dips to throwing angle. Immortals fan shields beside rebels, an impossible phalanx welded in dust. Tadmore's gate archers notch arrows. Odenathus lifts a hand, lazy as flicking away a gnat. Decide, he drawls. Surrender the prince and banners for safe escort, or learn how quickly desert sand drinks blood. You taste the moment fracture, hope hairline thin against inevitability. The wind drops, leaving a hush so brittle it might shatter under a whisper. Lucius Phoenius chooses thunder instead. You draw the glaive, blade hoarse against sheath. If Rome and Persia covet captives more than citizens, you shout, voice raw, then let the desert have all our bones. But first, know this. You slam the proclamation onto Bahram's lap and drive the seal ring onto his finger. Write your name, Prince. One final order for your empire. Bahram studies you, grief and defiance warring in fever-bright eyes. Then, slow, deliberate, he presses ring to wax, thumb leaving a crimson-tinted print. His voice, when it comes, is barely breath. By my blood, all who flee chains under the sun of Iranshar are free. Silence sucks the air from the world. A single palm leaf skitters across stone. Odenathus's smile sinks into a snarl. So be it. He wheels, barks a command. Gate archers draw fully, and a horn blasts from the eastern dunes before they loose. A dust plume boils upward. Shapur's vanguard, 20 cataphract ranks hammering the plain, burnished armor flaring dawn like a wildfire. Between two predators, Palmyra's prince reassesses value instantly. Into the city, he shouts to his archers, and bar the doors. But your line is already moving. Asper shepherds prisoners toward the side wadi. Sabra flings smoke pots lifted from Tadmore's spice bazaar, cloaking your retreat in choking cinnamon. Sarva lifts Bahram bodily, sprinting for a collapsed aqueduct arch arrows hiss from both fronts. One pins the proclamation to a palm trunk, fluttering like a wounded dove. You stay to rear guard, glaive whirling. Two cataphracts crash through smoke, iron hooves spark stone. You sidestep slashing sabers, sever bridles, watch riders tumble beneath their own mounts. But a third spear finds your ribs, white stab, then pulsing hot flood. Breath leaves in a grunt, world tilts. The boy is suddenly there, face smeared with soot and tears. He wedges shoulder under yours, trying to lift. You taste bile and copper. Overhead, Tadmore's bronze gates slam shut, bolts thundering like judgment. You hiss to the boy. Follow Sarva, keep the standard, never kneel. He shakes his head, eyes blazing refusal, but you shove him toward the fleeing column, blood slicking your palms. Shapur's vanguard crests the ridge, lances lower as one. You stagger into the lee of the proclamation palm, rip the parchment free, clutch it to your chest, a final shield of words. Heartbeats drum like retreating footsteps, vision tunnels to pinprick stars. Cataphract captain reins in, studying the solitary Roman swaying amid dust. Where's the prince? He bellows. You grin, copper froth on teeth. Free, you whisper, and let the parchment fly. Wind snatches it, spins it skyward, a ragged paper phoenix riding sunlit thermals over the battlefield. The captain's face contorts. He spurs forward, but you're already sinking, knees kissing sand warm as hearth ash. Pain pulses, then drifts. Sounds blur, hoof thunder, distant screams, the high keen of desert swallows. Above, the proclamation flutters higher, catching a thermal that carries it over Tadmore's walls. Where curious merchants will find it, read it, whisper. Your gaze finds the horizon, a wavering line where rebels vanish into heat shimmer, a tattered eagle dancing above like a scrap of molten sunset. You imagine them skirting Palmyra's canals, striking north to Emesa, west to Antioch, spreading a gospel of broken collars and inverted loyalties. Empires will scramble, edicts drafted, borders redrawn, but the legend will outrun every cavalry dispatch. Blood pools warm around knees. Wind's grit scours open wounds, oddly soothing. You feel lighter, as if iron collars shed unseen weight at last. Mars is silent now. Perhaps even war gods bow before a man who dies of his own choosing. Sun crowns the crest, bathing everything in blinding gold. You close your eyes, picture a river that never drags prisoners under. only carries them home. Somewhere beyond pulse-throb silence, voices chant, not slave dirges, but marching songs bruised and triumphant. You smile, let the glaive slip from fingers, and fall forward into the cool shadow you cast on burning sand.